Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Fear Street Part 2, 1978. Fear Street 1978 is a continuation of where 1994 left off, and follows the characters Dina and Josh asking for the assistance of a character named C. Berman, who was briefly introduced in the last movie, and they think that she's the only one who can help out Dina's girlfriend Sam, who they suspect is possessed by the spirit of Sarah Fear. C. Berman, whose first name we find out later on is Cindy, is a survivor of the Camp Nightwing massacre which occurred in 1978, which mirrors similar circumstances to those which happened in 1994 in the previous movie. Although initially reluctant to help them, C. Berman agrees to recount the story as it happened all those years ago, and then from there the majority of the rest of the movie takes place in 1978, and it goes pretty much how you'd expect. The staff and students have a good time at an innocent-looking summer camp and all seems well until one of the characters ends up getting possessed by the spirit of Sarah Fear, which prompts them to go on a murderous rampage throughout the camp, and everyone tries to survive the ordeal and escape before they meet their untimely doom. Anyone who's seen the first movie will pretty much know exactly how the massacre in this one plays out. There are a few twists and turns here and there that keeps things interesting and fresh, but basically it's a much more expanded version of the brief snippets of info that characters from 1994 already know about. So while the predictability of it all may disappoint some viewers, I'm happy to say that the characters more than make up for it. Cindy Berman's sister Ziggy is the main character of the story. She's portrayed as a rebellious personality with a troubled past, and I gotta say, I really loved her character arc in this movie. She's a lonely artistic person who regularly experiences bullying while attending the camp, and as such has trouble fitting in with the rest of the popular/preppy crowd in the rest of Camp Nightwing, of which her sister Cindy also happens to be a counselor at. Cindy is essentially the complete opposite of Ziggy in this movie, very much a people pleaser in every sense of the term. She's always wearing her clothes neatly and properly, is dead set against any kind of drug, and doesn't like to swear at all. She's basically an angel, or at least appears to be one. And I really like how this movie explored the relationship between Cindy and Ziggy. Little by little, we get to learn more about why they are the way they are as characters and learn more about their family background, and it was great to see them become closer and bonding together as the massacre unfolded around them. There's also another great character named Alice, who shares her own backstory with Cindy as well. She and Cindy were friends for many years until Cindy decided to change her identity so as to fit in more with a popular crowd, and as a result this ends up creating a rift between the two characters. I'll admit that I wasn't a big fan of Alice at first due to her attitude at the beginning of the movie, but as she starts to spend more and more time with Cindy throughout the movie's events, I came to sympathize with her a lot more as a character, and I ended up rooting for her to survive along with everyone else. 1978 is similar to 1994 in how it prioritizes character development over the actual slasher aspect of the story. However, I did notice that compared to the previous film, 1978 has ramped up the violence to a much higher degree this time around. It feels more like an average slasher flick this time around, which could provide comfort to those who want a more traditional horror experience. Again, as with the previous film, the kills aren't really anything all that gory or egregious. In fact, they're pretty boring if I'm being honest, as they all just involve an axe in some way, shape, or form, but the increase in bloodshed does make it a lot more entertaining. I will also give this movie credit in that it features actual kids playing kids in this movie, as opposed to the previous one which had 20-year-olds playing teenagers. It's just a lot more realistic in that sense. And not only that, but it actually shows these kids being killed on screen. Not directly so, but the events that are implied throughout, as well as the film techniques that are used to showcase their deaths, are enough to make your skin crawl. I'm also pleased to report that those who enjoyed the mysteries behind Sarah Fear and the curse of Shadyside and want more information and details behind those mysteries will be very happy when they watch 1978, because this movie has details in spades. The movie does a great job answering questions that viewers of the first movie, 1994, may have been puzzled by when they were watching it. It explains the origins of characters such as the killer Ruby Lane, as well as the cop Nick Good from the previous movie and how he's a central character this time around. It also explains the origin of the rhyme of Sarah Fear, as well as the connection between her hand and her body. It does its best to turn over as many stones as possible, while leaving a few interesting mysteries and tidbits here and there for viewers to hem and haw and digest over in anticipation of the next and final film in the trilogy, which releases next week. This being said though, I think that there are some things in this movie that don't have as much detail and explanation behind them as I would have liked to have seen. For example, it doesn't do a good job explaining the relationship and division that exists between Shadyside and its counterpart Sunnyvale. All we know about the two communities is that their relationship is tenuous at best and downright hostile at worst. That was something I recognized in the first movie, and I thought that there would be more information elaborated upon in this one, but that wasn't the case. There was no explanation as to why the relationship between those two towns was the way it was, and I would have appreciated a lot more information and context in that respect. Something else I didn't like about this movie, and this is more of a general complaint than anything, it doesn't have anything to do with the actual mystery of the story. Some of the characters just flat out added nothing to the movie. I mentioned earlier in this review that Ziggy was being bullied while at the camp, and all this bullying happens at the hands of a girl named Sheila. I thought she would have had some sort of redemption arc like most of the other characters do in the movie, or at least a lot more development and backstory behind them as the events go along, but for her that was not the case. She was just a total bitch from beginning to end, and we don't even really know what happens to her. She just flat out disappears in the last half hour in the movie, and we have no idea where she goes or what happened to her. She was an unnecessary source of conflict that added nothing to the movie. Other characters aren't really annoying so much as they're pointless and make you wonder why they're there in the first place. Alice has a stoner boyfriend named Arnie, who's pretty much the same as every other stoner in every other slasher movie you've ever seen. He acts like a total idiot in every scene that he's in, and I couldn't wait to see his character get killed. Spoiler alert. Overall, Fear Street 1978 is a big step up from 1994. Even though it has a few problems here and there, it's pretty much superior to that movie in every sense of the word. If you enjoyed 1994, you absolutely have to check out this movie. Heck, even if you didn't enjoy watching the first movie in the trilogy, you'll probably still find something to enjoy in watching this one, as there's not as much in the way of whiny teenage characters, and the violence and entertainment factor is scaled up big time. The movie does feel more like a traditional and somewhat cliched slasher this time around, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. The mystery aspect is still there, and I enjoy the variety that this trilogy has going for it, and I can't wait to see what the filmmakers have in store for us next week with 1666. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Fear Street 1978. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the French superhero movie, How I Became a Superhero. Bye bye!